died about 400 AD, about 394. The last hieroglyphic document was written, and by the time of 400 AD the language was totally dead. Prophet came in about 600, so by that time all the words, all the language had died. Egyptian language was dead. Nobody understood Egyptian language at that time. Interestingly, in 1799 a stone was resurrected which dated back to 196 BC, and it had inscriptions in Hieroglyphy, another language, and Greek. And it was using this stone the whole language was revived and they could reconstruct the language. Now in this language, interestingly, a name comes up, Haman, and Haman was the name of the head of stone quarry workers. Okay, and he was probably very close to Pharaoh himself. Now interestingly, this word could not have been known at the time of Prophet normally, because the language was dead. Okay, the word doesn't, and for this word actually occurs in Quran. Okay, first let me come to that. Pharaoh said, "Councils, I do not know of any other god for you apart from me. Haman, kindle a fire for me over the clay and build me a lofty tower so that perhaps I may be able to climb up to Moses' God. I consider him," that's Moses, "a liar." Now, many people actually criticize Quran on this because Haman didn't occur in Old Testament. Haman, at least in context of Pharaoh's story, it occurred in the context of a story of some Persian king or some Persian person. So they thought probably Muhammad got it wrong. He was trying to write that name and he accidentally put it in the name of Pharaoh. Interestingly, after this discovery that I just mentioned, the word Haman was used in ancient Egypt for the head of stone quarry workers, and it's very unlikely how Muhammad could have got it. Again, is there a human explanation possible? I mean, many times I've told this to people, they've gone like, wow. But yeah, human explanation is possible. Maybe some people just were speaking this word still, and it was not recorded in any written document, and therefore we have no records of it, and somehow Prophet accidentally heard it, and somehow coincidentally he put it in Quran. So yeah, a human explanation is possible. Very unlikely, but if given this verse alone, I would not establish divine revelation, because divine revelation is a very big thing. The human explanation here is possible. Okay, another thing, as I had said, one thing I really love about Quran, the philosophy of it, is that it's not earth-centered, it's not human-centered. You see, for any religion, as a scientist, if it bases itself entirely and makes the whole creation look like God is, like, it's okay to say God really loves us, and that's fine. I can accept that. I feel I really love God, and God really loves me. And this is a beautiful relation I feel, and it gives me solace, it gives me comfort. When I read Quran, it gives me comfort. But to say that God is only bothered about me, you see, God is great and He can love me more than what even I can conceive, but yet not be centered around me. To say that God is centered around humans, and the purpose of creation is centered around humans, and the whole universe is centered around humans, is not a concept a scientist feels easy with. That's why actually this is the reason Hawking gives for, one of the major reasons he gives for him being an atheist was he can't conceive of such a God. And to be really frank, this is an uncomfortable situation. It's more uncomfortable than a conspiracy theory that Obama, America and all the world is bothered about what few of us are discussing here, and they're having special meetings over there. I mean, that would be more conceivable than the God who created such a big universe to be totally centered around Earth. Or humans, for that matter. This is the beauty of Quranic philosophy I like. Certainly the creation of all the universes and even the earth is a greater thing than the creation of men, yet most men do not know it. Okay, you men, you think you're special, but even the creation of earth, leave alone the whole of universe, is a greater thing than your creation. And this is a non-human centric philosophy, and I just think it's very scientifically tenable. It's something which a scientist would like to hear. Okay, conclusion. I'll just tell you a few facts about how Quran was written. For example, if you're trying to write a book, you would normally write chapters of it and then plan it up and write it. It's very unlikely. If you face a problem, you will write a verse. 20 days later, you will write another verse. And just before your death, the book fits into a coherent lot. And exactly that's how Quran was written. Some practical problem used to come to the Prophet, he used to get a revelation. Later on, some other revelation. They were not even in the sequential order, and just before his death, the book was complete. Okay, that's a beautiful fact if you analyze it. But initially, I really thought it to be a strong point. But then when I objectively analyzed it, I said there is a flaw in this point. The flaw is, how do we know about this happening? We know about this happening because of hadith, okay, which are Islamic recordings of the Prophet. They are religious in nature. I can't blindly trust them unless I get the same thing proved by a secular source, by a source which was probably against Islam. Because still this could have very well been made up. Not very likely, but yes, could be. So even this proof, I wouldn't really credit it. I mean, initially I put it there because I thought it's a beautiful thing, but then I reconsidered it and thought how the proof is still, the whole proof is still based on certain source, sacred Islamic sources, and in analyzing a text, a particular religious text, the last thing we should do is use its own sacred religious sources as its proof, because they can easily be manipulated to fit the context. That's what most people would most likely do. Now this is where I would like to end my talk. This is where I would like to end my talk. The thing is, Quran is probably the only text I know of which gives you a chance to disprove it. You see, most religious texts come up and say, well, religion is blind, you have to have faith. Quran gives you a chance, then if you think it's wrong, then disprove it. And fine, if it's wrong, then it should stand for itself. If it's right, it should stand for itself, and if it's wrong, then leave it. And this is what a verse in Quran says. And if you are in doubt as to what God has revealed from time to time to my servant, that's Muhammad, then produce a chapter like this and call to your helpers, if there are any, besides God, if your doubts are true. But if you cannot, and of surety you cannot, and then the verse goes to say that you should really fear punishment if you're blindly rejecting something out of prejudice, and you should be ready for God's reward if you do good things. Again, here in Quran, the first person is God, the second person is Muhammad, and the third person is other people addressed. This is the general context of Quran. But this verse was initially revealed because Quran had a beautiful linguistic structure, and it came up as a challenge. If you think it's not from God, produce something linguistically like it. And actually nobody was able to face up this challenge, and actually this was one of the most strong arguments for which the Arabian Peninsula converted to Islam. I think this argument is still valid for our time. If you think this is not from God, why don't anyone who thinks it's not from God do something similar? Let's write a text, okay? Let's write a text based on our knowledge today and make scientific statements which 100% of which will be valid after 50 years. If anyone can do it, I will think maybe Quran could do it. But if anyone can't do it, if you can't write a text, even based with all the scientific knowledge of today, which will make scientific assertions of knowledge which is not acceptable today and remain valid after 50 years, not even 100, 50 years, then there must be something special in it, and that is the whole challenge. If you can't do it, then you have to consider the question of this being God, and this is what you have to accept. That is where I would like to end my talk. I'm open to questions now. Iman, you want to say something?
Okay, I'll give you now 30 seconds to get the information soaked in, and then you can ask questions.
I can drink water in 30 seconds. Maybe even take a little bit of rest. Is it fine now? What are you trying to do? Why are you checking the email in front of the audience? Yeah, please. You're opening it in front of everyone. All of them are going to see. Probably even your password.
I don't have any exciting.
Yeah, what are you doing, man? What are you doing?